Howdy doody, buckaroonie. My name is Cameron, better known as Venus Theory, and welcome back to another Multiphonics tutorial. Today, I'm really excited because we are going to be putting on our adventurer hats and taking a look at some more advanced ideas with the sequencers inside of Multiphonics. If you have not already watched the video covering all the basics of sequencers in Multiphonics, I would recommend you pause this and go check that out before continuing on with what we're going to be building here today. To get this party started, I've set up a basic sequence patch which currently sounds like this. Really nothing too fascinating quite yet, but we're gonna start expanding on it. The only thing of note before we really dive in here is that I do have the trigger output from the keyboard going into the reset of this gate and CV sequencer. That's gonna be important here in a minute just to resync things once we start expanding this patch. Sequencers are obviously great for, well, sequencing stuff. And if we think about a sequencer kind of in the broader sense, it really is just a bunch of different CV signals. And in the world of modular, CV can be used to control just about anything. So we're going to be using some more sequencers to start expanding on this idea. Kicking things off, let's grab a gate and CV sequencer module here, and we're going to hook this up by connecting it to our master clock, and we're going to grab the reset from the trigger output of the keyboard. That way I can just press a note and everybody's going to fall right back in sync. The gate and CV sequencer can output a couple of different things. It can output a gate, it can output a pulse, and it can output CV. So let's use the CV output of this gate and CV sequencer to control the decay and release of the envelope here, because right now, just a very short percussive thing. So let's maybe expand on hit 3 and let's do 7 as well. So we'll make 3 just slightly longer by increasing the CV a little bit, and 7 we'll just crank it almost all the way. Now let's output the CV to the decay and release inputs of the ADSR, and we can increase the depth of modulation here with the attenuverters. So now we've started to build something a bit more interesting, but we can take this so much further. To make things a bit more spicy here, let's mess with the other CV settings of this gate and CV sequencer, and then we can output this CV to maybe control the cutoff of the filter here as well. And now we've got something with a lot more motion. But we haven't yet utilized the gate or pulse outputs, so let's add something in to start building this idea into something a bit more fun to listen to. Let's bring in a glide module here and change where our pitch CV is coming from. So we'll feed the output of the quantizer to the input and then the output into the pitch input of the VCO. So right now, if we give this a play, it's going to constantly be gliding, and I don't really want that. Instead, we could use this active input. So let's output the gate of this gate and CV sequencer to the active input, and now this is only going to glide when we have a gate signal. So let's add this to step 7. If we give this a play, we'll hear that now the glide is only going to be activated on step 7. But we can continue on by maybe adding a different clock signal for this gate and CV sequencer down here. If we grab another clock module, let's place it next to this just for the sake of clarity. We can grab the tempo output of the master clock, feed that to the external tempo input, and then we'll grab the play output and put that into the play input of this clock. Now we could change the clock division. Let's set this to maybe 1/8 notes so that this sequencer is going to play at a different rate than this one. Now we'll feed the output of this clock to the clock input of this gate and CV sequencer. Let's go ahead and just hit a key to reset everything, give it a play, and now we've started expanding this with a bit more of an interesting groove. To keep building on this, let's do some filter FM. So I'm gonna grab a VCA here, and then I'm gonna output the triangle wave to the input of the VCA and the output to the filter's FM input here. Right now, if we give this a play, nothing is happening because the VCA needs some kind of control signal. Let's grab the gate sequencer module here and place it next to this VCA. We'll need to connect this obviously, so let's grab the clock signal from here and the reset signal from the trigger, press a key just to make sure everything's reset and ready to go, and we'll output the gate into the CV linear input of the VCA. What we can do with this is add steps where this is going to allow the signal through. In this case, it's going to be filter FM. So we could do maybe something like this and start getting a lot more movement to this patch pretty easily. Let's increase the Q. And now we've started to sequence a lot more stuff than just notes and gates. Since this gate and CV sequencer has a lot of stuff going on, let's use that CV to control the low pass and high pass blend of the state variable filter. Building on this patch even further, one thing we could play with is exploring modulating the gate and CV sequencer's length. Let's drop this first one down to 4 steps. This is our main kind of brain sequencer, and start messing with that using an LFO. So I'm gonna drag an LFO down here. I'm gonna output the triangle wave and send it to the CV input for the length modulation, increase it all the way to 100%. Let's drop the rate to something fairly slow, maybe 0.15 hertz or thereabouts. Give this a play and hear what happens. Now, because this is a triangle wave, this motion is going to be somewhat predictable. So if we increase the random here, maybe to around 50%, we're never really going to hear the same thing twice. And expanding on this even further, we could CV the random using the CV output of this lower gate and CV sequencer just to always change and move and morph things no matter how long we let this play for. On the note of modulating sequencers, another interesting thing to try is utilizing the swap input here of the gate sequencer. So let's add the output of 5 and feed that into the swap input here. This way it's going to turn on every second cycle. So if we reset this and give it a play, 5 is off, and now it's on. This can be especially useful for rhythmic sequences or things like this where you want to add a bit of bounce and groove, but change it every so often so it's not the same thing every single time. Finally, in the spirit of adventure and chaos, let's bring in a sample and hold module here as one last source of CV. Let's grab the hold from the pulse output of this top CV sequencer here and send the output into maybe the cutoff as well as the growl just a little bit. And now we've built a big monster of a sequence with a little bit of generative stuff going on. Let's bring in some delay and reverb. And with that, we return triumphantly from our adventures with a patch that uses sequencers in a variety of different ways. And that's a look at just a few other ways you can start utilizing the sequencer modules in Multiphonics in your patches. Obviously, the real adventure is left to you and your imagination from here. Hopefully you found this video inspiring, and I hope it gives you a couple ideas to start experimenting with the sequencer modules a bit more in your patches. For more Multiphonics tutorials just like this one, as well as news and updates on all things applied acoustics, don't forget to subscribe to the channel down below. With that, I guess we're done. So thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something. And as always, I hope this inspires you to get out there and make something awesome.